The morning started like any other Tuesday in Seoul. Captain Yang sat in his fighter jet on the runway, running through his pre-flight checks. The sky was clear and blue, perfect for training exercises. He had flown this route 100 times before. Nothing ever happened during these routine patrols. Then the radio crackled to life. All units, we have unidentified objects entering the atmosphere, multiple contacts. This is not a drill. Yang looked up through his cockpit window. His blood ran cold. Massive shapes were pushing through the clouds, blotting out the sun. Ships. Impossibly large ships that seemed to stretch across the entire sky. They had a strange, organic look to them, like living creatures made of metal. Patterns of light pulsed across their dark surfaces, creating waves of color that hurt to look at. "Command, this is Eagle One. I see them. What are your orders?" Yang kept his voice steady, but his hands gripped the controls tight. "Intercept and identify. Do not fire unless fired upon." Yang pushed his throttle forward and climbed toward the nearest ship. As he got closer, he realized how truly massive it was. His entire squadron could fit inside one of the glowing patterns on its hull. The ship hung in the air, defying everything he knew about physics and flight. Before he could report back, beams of bright red light shot down from the ships. They struck buildings in the city below. Explosions bloomed like deadly flowers. People were dying down there. Thousands of them. "All units engage. Repeat, engage the enemy." Yang fired his missiles at the nearest ship. They streaked toward the target, trailing smoke. Then they simply stopped in midair, frozen by some invisible barrier. The missiles hung there for a moment before falling uselessly to the ground. More fighters joined him in the sky. They fired everything they had. Nothing worked. The alien ships had shields that stopped every weapon, and now the ships were firing back. Red beams cut through the air like knives. One by one, Yang watched his fellow pilots die. Their jets exploded or spun out of control, trailing fire as they fell. He dodged and weaved, but he knew it was only a matter of time. On the ground, chaos spread through the streets. Doctor ran from her laboratory as the building shook from nearby explosions. She was young, only 29, but she had spent years studying space and the stars. 3 weeks ago, she had detected strange energy readings coming from beyond the solar system. She had tried to warn people, but no one listened. Now those readings had arrived, and they brought death with them. Stumbled into the street and looked up. Smaller ships were descending from the massive vessels above. They landed in the city squares and parks. Ramps extended from their sides, and figures emerged. The aliens were tall, much taller than humans. They wore armor that seemed to flow like liquid metal across their bodies. In their hands, they carried weapons that glowed with the same red light as the beams from the ships. People screamed and ran. The aliens opened fire without warning. Red bolts of energy punched through cars and walls like they were made of paper. Bodies fell. Blood ran in the streets. Colonel Woojin Park stood in the military command center, watching the feeds from around the world. Every screen showed the same horror. The aliens were attacking everywhere at once. Tokyo, New York, London, Mumbai. Every major city on Earth was under assault. His forces were fighting back, but conventional weapons barely slowed the invaders down. "Get me casualty reports," he ordered. His voice was calm, but inside his mind raced. He had fought in conflicts before, but nothing like this. The enemy had better technology, better weapons, and they showed no mercy. "Sir, we're reading millions dead in the first hour, and that number is climbing fast." Wu Jin clenched his jaw. "Pull back our forces. We can't win a direct fight. We need to regroup and find their weaknesses." In the sky above Seoul, Yang's jet took a glancing hit. Alarms screamed in his cockpit. His left engine was on fire and he was losing altitude fast. He aimed for an empty lot and pulled his ejection handle. The canopy blew off and his seat rocketed him free. His parachute deployed and he drifted down toward the burning city below. As he descended, he saw the full scale of the destruction. Entire blocks were on fire. The alien ships hovered over the city like hungry predators. Their smaller craft moved through the streets, hunting survivors. Yang landed hard in an alley. He quickly disconnected his parachute and drew his sidearm. It felt worthless against the alien weapons, but it was all he had. He needed to survive. He needed to find other survivors and fight back somehow. Across the city, a young woman named Lee worked frantically in an underground bunker. She was a combat engineer, trained to repair and modify weapon systems. Around her, other engineers tried to analyze footage of the alien attacks. "Their shields operate on some kind of energy frequency," said, pointing at her screen. "If we can figure out the exact frequency, maybe we can disrupt them." "That could take months," another engineer replied. "We don't have months." "Then we work faster," said firmly. She was young, only 26, but she had a gift for understanding how things worked. If there was a weakness in the alien technology, she would find it. By nightfall, the first day of the invasion ended. Earth's major military bases were destroyed or damaged. Governments around the world struggled to maintain order as millions of refugees fled the cities. The aliens had established control zones in every major population center. Their massive ships hung in the sky like dark moons, casting shadows over the ruins below. In her lab, now relocated to an emergency bunker, Doctor worked through the night. She studied every piece of data they had on the aliens, their shields, their weapons, their ships. There had to be something, some weakness, some flaw. As dawn broke on the second day, made a discovery. The alien shields weren't perfect. They had a specific frequency pattern, and more importantly, they seemed designed to stop organized military attacks. The shields anticipated missiles and bullets and energy weapons. But what about something else? Something unexpected. She called Colonel Wu Jin. "I think I know how we can hurt them, but it's going to require us to fight differently, not like an army, like guerrillas." Wu Jin listened to her plan. It was risky. It would cost lives, but it was better than surrendering. "Tell me everything," he said. Around the world, humans began to organize. In the ruins of cities, in hidden bunkers, in the wilderness between the alien control zones, resistance groups formed. They were soldiers and civilians, young and old, united by one simple fact: they refused to give up. The aliens had superior technology. They had powerful weapons and shields. They had conquered hundreds of worlds before Earth. But they had never faced humans before. They didn't understand what humanity was capable of when pushed to the edge. They didn't know that humans could adapt, could learn, could fight with a ferocity born of desperation. The invasion had only just begun. The real war was about to start. Yang had been behind enemy lines for 3 days now. He moved through the ruins of Seoul like a ghost, hiding from alien patrols and searching for other survivors. His uniform was torn and dirty. His sidearm had only 6 bullets left. He knew he couldn't survive much longer alone. On the third night, he heard voices speaking Korean. He followed the sound to a collapsed parking garage. Inside, he found a group of people huddled around a small fire. They all held weapons, everything from military rifles to makeshift spears. A man stood up as Yang approached. He was older, maybe 40, with hard eyes and scars on his face. "I'm former Special Forces. Who are you?" "Captain Yang, Air Force. My jet was shot down on the first day." Studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Welcome to the Resistance. We're not much, but we're alive." He introduced the others. There was Bin Nam, a medical student who had been treating wounded survivors. Jinho Song, a 17-year-old kid who somehow knew how to hack the alien drones that flew overhead. And a dozen others, all ordinary people who had become fighters because they had no other choice. "What's your plan?" Yang asked. "Survive, hit their supply lines when we can, stay moving so they can't find us, poke the fire with a stick. We're like mosquitoes biting an elephant, annoying but not really a threat." Maybe we can be more than that, Yang said. He thought about what Doctor had told Command before he was shot down, about finding weaknesses, about fighting differently. Meanwhile, deep underground in a government bunker, Doctor worked with a team of scientists from around the world. They had managed to recover pieces of alien technology from destroyed drones and damaged soldiers. Now they were taking everything apart, studying how it worked. The energy cells use a crystalline matrix, explained to the others. It's incredibly efficient, but look here. She pointed to her screen. The crystals are unstable at certain frequencies. If we can generate the right pulse, we might be able to overload them. A scientist from Japan leaned forward. How do we generate that pulse? We modify our weapons. It won't be easy and it won't work on everything, but it's a start. Colonel Wu Jin listened to her report from the command center. How long before we can test it? Give me 2 weeks, maybe less if we get more samples. You have 1 week, Wu Jin said. We're running out of time. The aliens are building something big in the city centers. We need to hit them before they finish. Lee worked day and night in the engineering bay. She barely slept, barely ate. All she could think about was the alien technology and how to beat it. She took apart captured weapons and studied their power systems. She watched videos of alien soldiers fighting and looked for weaknesses in their armor. One night she noticed something. The aliens' exoskeletons were incredibly strong, but they had joints, places where the armor had to flex to allow movement. Those joints were less protected. A well-placed shot could cripple an alien soldier. She took this information to the tactical teams. They began training soldiers to aim for specific points: the knee joints, the elbow joints, the neck seal where the helmet connected to the chest piece. It wasn't much, but every advantage helped. Word spread through the resistance networks. Groups like S learned the new tactics. They practiced on destroyed alien corpses, learning the weak points. The next time they ambushed an alien patrol, they put the knowledge to use. Yang fired his rifle at an alien soldier's knee joint. The bolt of energy punched through and the alien collapsed. Bin shot another in the neck seal. Jinho used his hacked drone to drop a grenade on a third. In less than 30 seconds, the entire patrol was dead. They quickly stripped the bodies of weapons and power cells, then disappeared into the ruins before reinforcements arrived. It was a small victory, but it felt huge. They had fought the aliens and won. Across the world, similar stories played out. In New York, a former police officer named Wu Park led civilians through subway tunnels, ambushing aliens from below. In Cairo, a field commander named Sangwoo used captured alien weapons to defend a refugee camp. In Mumbai, in Sydney, in Mexico City, humans were learning to fight back. The aliens responded with brutality. They burned entire neighborhoods suspected of hiding resistance fighters. They executed civilians in public squares as warnings. They deployed massive machines that could level city blocks in minutes. For every human victory, thousands more died in retaliation. But the resistance only grew stronger. Every act of alien cruelty created more fighters. People who had been afraid now burned with rage. They picked up weapons and joined the fight, even knowing they would probably die. Doctor completed her frequency weapon. It was crude, built from car batteries and scavenged parts. But when they tested it on a captured alien shield generator, the shield flickered and died. The device worked. We need to build more, she told Colonel Wu Jin. Hundreds of them, thousands if possible. We don't have the resources, Wu Jin said. We're barely holding the supply lines we have. Then we'll teach people to build them, said. She had joined the meeting via video link from her engineering bay. The design is simple enough. Any decent mechanic or electrician can put one together with the right parts. They spread the blueprints through the resistance networks. In hidden workshops and garages across the world, people began building the devices. They called them shield breakers. and they gave humanity its first real weapon against the invaders. 3 weeks after the invasion began, Colonel Wu Jin planned a major operation. They would hit an alien supply depot on the outskirts of Seoul. It was risky. The depot was heavily guarded and they would be outnumbered. But the depot held fuel cells and weapons that the aliens needed. Destroying it would hurt them. Resistance group volunteered for the assault. Yang would lead one team. A former teacher named Shin would lead another. They had 40 fighters total, armed with captured alien weapons and homemade shield breakers. They attacked at dawn. The shield breakers worked, disrupting the alien defenses long enough for the fighters to get close. Then it became brutal close-quarters combat. Humans died. Aliens died. The depot's fuel storage exploded, sending a mushroom cloud into the sky. When the smoke cleared, 20 of the 40 human fighters were dead or dying, but the depot was destroyed. The aliens had lost a major supply point. Bin worked frantically to save the wounded. Her medical supplies were almost gone, but she did what she could. Yang sat nearby, his arm bandaged from a burn. He watched the sun rise over the ruins and thought about the people they had lost. Was it worth it? Bin asked quietly. Yang looked at the burning depot. Yes, we proved we can hurt them. We proved they can be beaten. News of the victory spread quickly. Resistance groups everywhere took hope from it. If one depot could be destroyed, others could be too. If one alien stronghold could fall, others would follow. In her bunker, Doctor analyzed data from the attack. The aliens were adapting their shields already, compensating for the frequency weapon. But she was adapting too. She would create new weapons, better weapons. Humanity would stay one step ahead, no matter what. The aliens had expected to conquer Earth in weeks. They had done this to hundreds of worlds before, but Earth was different. Humans were different. They didn't break. They didn't surrender. Every defeat made them fight harder. Every loss filled them with more determination. The invaders were learning a hard lesson. They could destroy human cities, kill millions of people, burn entire continents. But they couldn't break the human spirit, and that spirit would be their downfall. The aliens changed their tactics after the supply depot attack. They deployed their harvester machines, massive constructs that towered over buildings. These machines moved slowly through cities, grinding everything in their path into raw materials. People, buildings, vehicles, everything became fuel for the alien fleet. Colonel Wu Jin watched the reports with growing concern. We're losing ground. They're stripping entire cities now. If they keep this pace, Earth will be a dead rock in 6 months. Then we need to move faster, said Mi, a former diplomat who now coordinated communication between resistance groups worldwide. We have cells on every continent. It's time we use them all at once. Wu Jin nodded. We need better intelligence first. We need to know where their command ships are, how many they have, what their fleet structure looks like. Yang volunteered for the mission before anyone else could speak. Let me do it. I'll get you the information. The plan was desperate, maybe even insane. They would capture an intact alien command vessel. Yang would lead a team to board a downed ship before the aliens could destroy it. They needed access to the ship's computers, its navigation data, anything that could tell them how to hurt the enemy fleet. Assembled a team of the best fighters from different resistance groups. Bin would come as their medic. Jinho would handle the technical side, accessing the alien computers, and they recruited Dong, a brilliant linguist who had been studying alien communications and symbols. They tracked a damaged command ship that had crashed in the mountains outside Seoul. The aliens were guarding it, but they hadn't destroyed it yet. Maybe they planned to repair it. Maybe they couldn't. Either way, it was humanity's chance. The team moved through the forest at night, avoiding alien patrols. They wore clothing that masked their heat signatures, technology they had learned from studying alien sensors. When they reached the crash site, they found 30 alien soldiers guarding the ship. 30 to 1 odds, muttered. I've faced worse. No, you haven't, Yang said, but he smiled as he said it. They attacked from multiple directions, using every trick they had learned. Shield breakers disrupted the alien defenses. Snipers targeted weak points in the armor. Jinho's hacked drones dropped explosives from above. The battle was fierce and fast. When it ended, half the human team was wounded, but the alien guards were dead. They entered the ship through a torn section of hull. Inside, the corridors were strange and unsettling. The walls seemed to pulse with organic life. The air smelled wrong, like copper and something sweet. They moved carefully, weapons ready, expecting an ambush at every corner. Dong found the computer core deep in the ship's center. It was a mass of crystalline structures connected by threads of light. He set up his equipment and began trying to interface with it. This is going to take time. The language structure is completely alien, literally. We don't have time, Yang said. Alarms were sounding in the distance. The aliens knew they were here. Reinforcements were coming. Jinho worked alongside Dong, using his hacking skills to bypass security. Together, they cracked through layers of alien code. Data flowed across their screens, most of it incomprehensible, but some things they could understand. Numbers, coordinates, ship designations. I've got it, Dong shouted. Their fleet structure, 17 harvest ships, 3 orbital carriers, and 1 massive mothership coordinating everything. Copy all of it, Yang ordered. Everything you can grab. Alien soldiers were boarding the ship now. The team could hear weapons fire in the outer corridors, and the others held the entrance, buying time with their lives. Bin worked frantically, treating wounded team members even as bullets and energy bolts flew overhead. One of her patients, a young fighter named One, died in her arms. Bin closed the girl's eyes and kept working. There would be time to grieve later, if there was a later. Got it, download complete. Jinho yanked his equipment free from the alien computer. Let's go. They fought their way back through the ship. The aliens were everywhere now, swarming through the corridors. 2 more team members fell. Then 3. Yang fired his weapon until it overheated, then switched to a captured alien rifle. They reached the torn hull and jumped out into the forest. Behind them, the alien ship exploded. The enemy had decided to destroy it rather than let humans learn from it. But it was too late. The data was already gone, safely stored on Jinho's portable drive. They ran through the forest as alien aircraft searched overhead. Out of the 20 people who had entered the ship, only 11 escaped, but they had what they needed. Back at the command center, Doctor and studied the captured data. The fleet structure was clear now. The 17 harvest ships were spreading across Earth, taking resources. The 3 orbital carriers held fighters and drop ships, but the mothership was the key. It controlled everything, coordinating the entire invasion. If we destroy the mothership, the whole fleet loses coordination, said. They'll be cut off from each other, vulnerable. How do we destroy something that big? Wu Jin asked. It's the size of a small city. Had been working on something new, a weapon based on alien technology but modified with human ingenuity. I call it a resonance bomb. It uses the same crystalline power cells the aliens use, but overloaded. The resulting cascade would ripple through any ship's power systems, frying every circuit. How close do we need to get? Yang asked. Very close. It needs to be deployed inside the mothership itself, at the power core. Everyone in the room understood what that meant. It was a suicide mission. Whoever went up there wouldn't be coming back. I'll go, Yang said immediately. We'll need more than one person, said. I should go too. I designed the weapon. I'm the only one who can deploy it properly. Volunteered next. Then Bin, Dong. Others stepped forward, each willing to die if it meant Earth might survive. Colonel Wu Jin looked at them all. These were his soldiers, his friends. He was sending them to their deaths, but there was no other choice. We'll plan a coordinated global assault. Every resistance cell will hit the harvest ships at the same time. It'll draw the aliens' attention away from orbit, give you a chance to reach the mothership. Over the next 2 weeks, they prepared. The resonance weapon was built and tested on captured alien technology. It worked, but barely. The power output was unstable. Someone would need to manually calibrate it during the final sequence. Across the world, resistance groups prepared for the largest coordinated attack in human history. In every occupied city, in every war-torn country, fighters their weapons. They knew most of them would die, but their sacrifice would give the orbital team their chance. Yang spent his last few days training with the team. They practiced in a captured alien shuttle, learning its controls. Jinho had hacked the shuttle's systems and loaded it with codes extracted from the command ship data. If everything went perfectly, they could fly right into the mothership's docking bay. And if everything doesn't go perfectly, Bin asked. Then we improvise, Yang said. It's what humans do best. The night before the mission, the team gathered around a fire. They shared stories about their lives before the invasion, who they had been, what they had loved, what they had lost, talked about her research on stars, told jokes that weren't funny but made everyone laugh anyway, showed them pictures of her family on her phone. They were all dead now, killed in the first week. Why are we doing this? Jinho asked. He was the youngest, still just a teenager. Why throw our lives away? Yang looked at the young man. Because if we don't, everyone dies. But if we do, humanity might survive. That's worth dying for. As dawn broke, the resistance forces around the world prepared to attack. Millions of fighters, armed with weapons both human and alien, waited for the signal. In orbit, the alien mothership hung in the darkness of space, unaware of the threat rising from the planet below. The war's final battle was about to begin. The signal went out at dawn. Across the world, resistance forces emerged from hiding and attacked the alien positions. It was the largest coordinated military operation in human history, and it was led by ordinary people who had become warriors out of necessity. In Seoul, Colonel Woo Jin led the ground assault against the nearest harvest ship. Tanks rolled through ruined streets, their cannons modified to fire captured alien energy weapons. Infantry followed behind, using shield breakers to punch through the alien defenses. The fighting was brutal from the first second. Woo Jin watched as his soldiers died by the dozens, but they kept pushing forward. The harvest ship loomed ahead, its massive legs crushing buildings as it tried to retreat. But the humans were everywhere now, swarming like ants attacking a giant. They placed explosives on the leg joints, targeting the weakest points. In Cairo, Sangwoo commanded a force of modified vehicles that rushed the alien positions. His people had welded armor plating onto cars and trucks, turning them into improvised tanks. They crashed through alien barricades, firing captured weapons through modified gun ports. Sangwoo's vehicle took a direct hit, killing his driver. He grabbed the wheel himself and kept going, ramming through an alien checkpoint even as his truck burned around him. In New York, Woo Park led hundreds of fighters through the subway system. They emerged behind alien lines, attacking from positions the invaders thought were secure. The aliens were powerful, but they had never learned Earth's geography. They didn't know the tunnels, the sewers, the hidden passages that humans used to move unseen. That ignorance cost them. High above the planet, Yang piloted the captured shuttle toward the orbiting mothership. The massive vessel filled his entire view, blocking out the stars. Its surface was covered in weapons and defensive systems, any one of which could destroy the small shuttle instantly. "Here goes nothing," he muttered, activating the stolen access codes. For a terrible moment, nothing happened. Then a docking bay opened in the mothership's side. The shuttle's computer had been accepted. They were cleared to enter. Yang flew into the belly of the alien ship. They landed in a massive bay filled with other shuttles and small craft. Alarms immediately began to sound. The aliens knew something was wrong. "Move, move," shouted as the team poured out of the shuttle. Alien soldiers were already rushing toward them, weapons raised. The team split up, using the parked ships as cover. They fired back at the aliens, buying time for and to reach the power core. Dong stayed with them, using his knowledge of alien symbols to navigate the ship's corridors. The fighting in the docking bay was desperate. Bin treated wounds while crouched behind a damaged shuttle, bullets and energy bolts flying overhead. Young Han, one of their team, made a last stand at a doorway, holding off a dozen aliens so others could escape. He died smiling, knowing he had bought them precious seconds. And Dong ran through the alien ship's corridors. The architecture was wrong, unsettling to human eyes. The walls curved in impossible ways. The air was too thick, too humid. But they kept moving, following the power readings that led to the core. Behind them, Yang and the remaining fighters fought a running battle. They were outnumbered 100-1, but they had surprise and desperation on their side. They threw grenades around corners and fired blind down corridors, anything to slow the alien response. On Earth, the battles raged. In Sydney, in London, in Ayers, humans threw themselves at the harvest ships with suicidal courage. The aliens were powerful, but they couldn't be everywhere at once. For every position they reinforced, humans struck somewhere else. One harvest ship fell in Tokyo, its legs blown out from under it. It crashed into the ruins of the city, crushing alien soldiers beneath its bulk. Another fell in Moscow, then Lagos. The aliens were losing ships. Inside the mothership reached the power core. It was a massive sphere of crystalline energy, suspended in the center of a huge chamber. Threads of light connected it to every system in the ship. It was beautiful and terrible. "This is it," she said, pulling the resonance weapon from her pack. Helped her set it up, connecting it to the core's power flow. The device hummed to life, its readings fluctuating wildly. "The power output is unstable," said, checking her equipment. "Someone needs to stay here and calibrate it manually. If the frequency drifts even slightly, the weapon won't work." Looked at her. They both knew what that meant. Whoever stayed wouldn't leave this room alive. "I'll do it," said. "This was my design, my responsibility." "No," started. "Go get the others out if you can." Smiled, and there were tears in her eyes. "Tell them we won. Tell them humanity survived." Dong tried to argue, but sealed the chamber door. Through the window, they could see her working at the controls, her fingers moving across alien interfaces as she prepared the weapon. Outside, Yang and were pinned down by alien forces. They had fought their way to the docking bay, but now they were surrounded. Took a hit to his shoulder and kept fighting. Another hit to his leg and he fell. "Go," he shouted at Yang. "Get everyone out, I'll hold them here." That's in order, Captain." Stood on his wounded leg, his weapon firing continuously at the advancing aliens. He bought them 10 seconds, 20, 30. Each second cost him another wound, but he kept fighting until a final blast threw him backward. He died as he had lived, fighting to protect others. Yang led the survivors back to the shuttle. Bin was there, badly wounded but still alive, and Dong arrived moments later. They climbed aboard, Yang in the pilot's seat. "Where's Bin?" asked. Nobody answered. They didn't need to. The shuttle launched from the docking bay as alarms screamed throughout the mothership. The aliens knew what was happening now. Fighters scrambled to intercept the escaping shuttle. Defense weapons tracked its path. In the power core chamber, watched her screens. The resonance weapon was almost ready. The frequency was stable. In moments, it would cascade through the entire ship, overloading every system, every circuit, every power conduit. She thought about her life, her research on the stars, the beauty of space. She had always wanted to see other worlds. Now she would die on one, saving her own. "For Earth," she whispered, and activated the weapon. The effect was instant. Energy surged through the mothership systems, frying everything it touched. Lights exploded. Computers sparked and died, the shields failed, the engines cut out, and then the power core itself began to overload. Yang piloted the shuttle away from the mothership as fast as it would go. Behind them, the massive vessel began to break apart. Explosions rippled across its surface. Entire sections tore free and tumbled into space. Then the core detonated. The explosion was like a new sun being born. It consumed the mothership instantly, vaporizing it. The shockwave spread outward, catching the 3 orbital carriers in its reach. They too exploded, one after another. From Earth's surface, people looked up and saw the fireworks in space. They saw their enemy's fleet dying, and they cheered. Without the mothership's coordination, the remaining harvest ships on Earth became confused. Their command structure collapsed. The human forces, sensing victory, pressed their attacks with renewed fury. By sunset, the last harvest ship had fallen. The few alien soldiers who survived tried to flee in damaged ships. Most were shot down. Some escaped into deep space, carrying news of their defeat back to whatever empire had sent them. The invasion was over. Earth had won. But the cost had been unimaginable. Half of humanity was dead. Major cities lay in ruins. The scars would last for generations. Heroes like and would never see the victory they had secured with their lives. In the shuttle, Yang set course for Earth. Dong was dying from his wounds, but he smiled as they broke through the atmosphere. He lived long enough to see home one last time. The war was won. Now came the harder part, learning to live in the world that remained. 3 months after the mothership's destruction, Colonel Wu Jin stood in the ruins of Seoul. Around him, construction crews worked to clear debris and rebuild. The sound of hammers and welding torches filled the air. It was the sound of hope, of humanity refusing to give up even after losing so much. The sky was clear now. No alien ships hung overhead, casting their dark shadows. The sun shone on a but free world. Wu Jin, now a general, walked through the memorial plaza they had built in the city center. Thousands of names were carved into black stone walls. Soldiers and civilians, adults and children, everyone who had died fighting for Earth's freedom. At the center of the memorial, one name was written in gold letters, Doctor. Beside it were the names of Dong and all the others who had sacrificed everything in the final battle. Yang stood by his name, his dress uniform crisp and clean. He wore medals now, decorations from a dozen countries. They felt heavy on his chest, too heavy. He didn't feel like a hero. He felt like a survivor guilty for living when so many others had died. She saved us all, Bin said quietly, standing beside him. She had recovered from her wounds, though she walked with a slight limp now. We wouldn't be here without her. Without all of them, Yang corrected. He touched Snaim gently. I wish she could see what we're building. Around the world, similar memorials were being erected. In every city that had suffered, in every country that had fought, people remembered their dead. The war had killed half of humanity. 4 billion people, gone in less than 3 months. It was almost too much to comprehend. But the survivors were determined to make their sacrifice mean something. Mi now led the United Earth Council, a new government formed from the ashes of the old world order. For the first time in history, all of humanity was truly united. The invasion had taught them a hard lesson. Divided, they were weak. Together, they were strong. We can never let our guard down again, Mi said at the council's first official session. The aliens came from the stars. There might be others out there. We need to be ready. That's where Lee came in. She now headed the Alien Technology Integration Division, a global effort to understand and use the technology the invaders had left behind. Her teams worked in former alien bases, taking apart their ships and weapons, learning their secrets. In just 3 months, they had made incredible progress. Human scientists were reverse engineering alien power cells, shield generators, and propulsion systems. Technology that should have taken centuries to develop was now within reach. Within 5 years, we'll have our own defensive fleet, told the Council. Ships that can protect Earth from orbit. Within 10 years, we might have the capability for interstellar travel. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. The aliens had tried to destroy humanity, but instead they had given them the tools to reach the stars. Yang found his new purpose training the next generation of pilots. The Earth Defense Force was being formed, combining military forces from all nations into a single unified command. Young men and women came to him, eager to learn how to fly the new ships being built. "Why did you survive when others died?" one young pilot asked him during training. Yang thought about and all the others. "I don't know, maybe luck, maybe chance, but I survived for a reason, to make sure their sacrifice wasn't wasted, to make sure we're ready if the enemy comes back." "Do you think they will?" "I don't know, but we'll be ready if they do." Bin completed her medical training and now worked in refugee camps, treating survivors who were still dealing with physical and mental wounds from the war. She saw the scars every day, not just on people's bodies but in their eyes. The trauma would last for generations. But she also saw strength. She saw people rebuilding their lives. She saw children playing in the ruins, laughing despite everything they had lost. Humanity was resilient. It could take the worst the universe threw at it and still find reasons to smile. Jinho Song, the teenage hacker who had helped them infiltrate the alien systems, was now studying computer science at a rebuilt university. He was part of a new generation that had grown up during the war. They had seen horrors that no child should see, but they had also seen humanity at its best. They were determined to build a better world. "We can't just rebuild what we had before," Jinho said to his classmates. "We need to build something better, something worth the sacrifice everyone made." In laboratories around the world, scientists made a troubling discovery. They were examining the destroyed mothership's database, recovering what data they could from the wreckage. Most of it was corrupted, but they found fragments of records that told a disturbing story. The aliens hadn't been conquerors. They had been refugees. They were fleeing from something, running from a threat so terrible it had destroyed their entire home system. The records were incomplete, fragmented, but one thing was clear. There was something else out there, something worse than the raiders who had attacked Earth. General Wu Jin read the reports with growing concern. He called a meeting of the United Earth Council and shared what they had found. "We don't know what this threat is," he said. "We don't know where it is or when it might arrive, but we know it exists, and we know it was powerful enough to drive the aliens to desperate measures." "What do you recommend?" Mi asked. "We prepare. We build our defenses faster. We reach out into space and learn what's out there before it comes to us." The council agreed. Humanity would not wait to be attacked again. They would take the fight to the stars, meeting threats before they reached Earth. 10 years passed. The scars on Earth's surface began to heal. New cities rose where old ones had fallen, built with a combination of human ingenuity and alien-inspired technology. The population was still only half of what it had been before the invasion, but it was growing again. The Earth Defense Fleet was now a reality. Dozens of ships orbited the planet, armed with weapons that combined human and alien technology. Space stations dotted the orbit, serving as early warning systems and defensive platforms. Humanity had learned its lesson well. And now they were ready for the next step. The ship hung in the orbital shipyard, gleaming in the sunlight. It was massive, built for deep space exploration. It would carry volunteers out into the galaxy, searching for both threats and allies. The ship bore a name painted in large letters across its hull: Doctor. Yang would captain the vessel on its first mission. He was older now, in his mid-40s, with gray at his temples, but his eyes still held the same determination they had during the war. "Are you ready for this?" asked him. She had helped design the ship systems and would serve as chief engineer. Ready as I'll ever be, Yang said. He looked at Earth through the viewport, the blue planet that had survived the impossible. Wanted to see other worlds, to explore the stars. We're doing this for her. Bin joined the crew as chief medical officer. Jinho, now a young man in his late 20s, would handle communications and computer systems. The crew was a mix of veterans from the war and young people who had grown up in its aftermath. They were humanity's ambassadors to the galaxy. They would search for the threat that had driven the aliens to Earth. They would look for other civilizations, potential allies or enemies. They would explore and learn and report back. But most importantly, they would show the universe what humanity was capable of. The launch day arrived. Millions watched from Earth as the Doctor's engines ignited. The ship pulled away from the orbital shipyard, accelerating toward the edge of the solar system and the unknown beyond. General Wu Jin watched from the command center on Earth. He was old now, his hair completely gray, but he still stood straight and proud. He thought about all the people who had died to make this moment possible. They would be proud, Mi said, standing beside him. She was older too, but still sharp and determined. Yes, Wu Jin agreed, they would. On the ship, Yang sat in the captain's chair as Earth grew smaller behind them. He thought about's last words, transmitted from the mothership's power core. Tell them we won. Tell them humanity survived. They had won. They had survived. And now they were doing more than just surviving. They were reaching for the stars, carrying the hope and determination of an entire species. The galaxy was vast and dangerous. There were threats out there, mysteries and horrors they couldn't imagine. But humanity had proven something during the invasion. They could face the impossible and find a way to win. They had stood their ground when aliens descended from the skies. They had fought with courage and ingenuity and sheer stubborn refusal to give up. They had paid a terrible price, but they had survived. And now they would endure, not just as a species clinging to one planet, but as explorers and defenders ready to face whatever the universe had in store. The Doctor accelerated past Mars, past Jupiter, heading for the edge of the solar system. Behind it, Earth's defensive fleet maintained their watch. Below, billions of people went about their lives, rebuilding and hopping and dreaming of a future among the stars. Humanity had learned the hardest lessons. They had seen the worst the universe could offer. They had lost half their number, seen their cities burn, watched their loved ones die. But they had stood their ground. They had endured, and they would never stop fighting for their right to exist among the stars. The invasion was over. The real journey was just beginning.